winds of ambiguity hover around.
There is no question that India is a country of growing importance and a country that we need to continue to work with, not just in the region but around the world. And we're not looking to provoke or cause problems.
With India suspending visa services, stranded Indians in Canada remain in a fix. Students, families concerned over their future.
ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ ਹਨਾ ਹਰ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਹੈ.
Will diplomatic tensions affect Indo-Canadians? Our top focus at 6 p.m. prime.
Good evening. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime here on India Today. I'm Akshata Nandagopal, and this evening we've got a packed show lined up for you where we're focusing on the plight currently of Indo-Canadians, whether it's about students who are currently based in Canada or those who are slated to go in the next few months. What does the diplomatic tensions actually mean for you? We'll break that down with our experts. We've got a panel lined up for you along with students who are currently based in Canada. First, as always, let's begin with the headlines. With the women's quota officially through, mega celebrations break out at the BJP headquarters. Women Karyakarta in blessing Prime Minister as he thanks all MPs who voted for the bill.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का अभिनंदन करें, जिन्होंने हम सब सशक्त नारी की चिंता करके देश के चिंतन में हमारी भागीदारीता को सुनिश्चित करने का काम किया है.
BJP MP Ramesh Biduri makes shocking anti-Muslim remarks in Parliament against BSP MP Danish Ali after Rajnath Singh's apology. BJP serves a show cause notice to Biduri. Opposition demands his suspension. India Today's political newsbreak confirmed BJP officially welcomes JDS into the NDA fold ahead of the 2024 battle. BJP and JDS to decide on the seat sharing soon. It's one setback after another for TDP chief Chandrababu Naidu. Naidu's judicial remand extended and the Andhra Pradesh High Court quashes Naidu's plea to dismiss arrest. Rapper Shubh remains defiant, clarifies but issues no apology whatsoever. Punjabi singers AP Dhillon, Karan Aujla back Shubh, say don't be influenced by hateful words. And India draws the red line for China, slams Beijing for stopping Arunachal Pradesh Wushu athletes' entry for Asian Games. Union Minister Anurag Thakur cancels China visit in protest. And let's begin by getting you all the latest updates, all the developments in the last 24 hours in the diplomatic tensions between India and Canada. You had Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking out once again on the issue, this time saying that there's reasonable concern over India's role in the killing of Nijar. What exactly has that meant? How has India responded? Let's take a look at this report.
The Canadian Prime Minister has just acknowledged India's global clout.
There is no question that India is a country of growing importance.
In his comments at the sidelines of the New York General Assembly, Trudeau also underscored the importance of his country's broader engagement with India on the world stage.
There is no question that India is a country of growing importance and a country that we need to continue to work with, not just in the region but around the world. And we're not looking to provoke or cause problems.
At the same time, the Canadian Prime Minister reiterated his allegation regarding the death of slain Khalistani leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar, allegations New Delhi has already strongly refuted. Asked to characterize the evidence he claims to be having, Trudeau dodged a direct question.
Prime Minister, India has rejected your allegations.
According to official sources, India has sent multiple deportation requests for wanted terrorists and gangsters to Canada, but Canada has ignored all of them. A deportation request for gangster Goldie Brar, who took responsibility for the killing of Punjabi rapper Sidhu Moosewala and who is believed to be in Canada, has also gone unheard. In its dossier to Canada, India has also raised serious concerns about at least 9 Canada-based separatist organizations supporting outlawed groups like the Khalistan Tiger Force, the Sikhs for Justice, and the Babbar Khalsa International. The issue of deportations of wanted terrorists and gangsters raised by Indian authorities in multiple diplomatic and security talks. 8 individuals involved in terror activities and as many gangsters who have been conspiring with Pakistan's ISI have found a safe haven in Canada.
If there is any country, if you're talking about reputational issues and reputational damage, if there's any country that needs to look at this, I think it is Canada and its growing reputation as a place, as a safe haven for terrorists, for extremists, and for organized crime. And I think that's a country that needs to worry about its international reputation.
An unprecedented diplomatic row between the two countries, otherwise sharing a robust trade, diplomatic, and strategic partnership. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, with this current tension, the diplomatic tensions between India and Canada, what does that mean for all of those students who plan to head to Canada in the upcoming months to study, who've got the university admissions? Do they have reason to be worried right now? Joining me here on 6 p.m. Prime is Karan Gupta, who is an international education counsellor. Karan, pleasure having you here with us on India Today. Can you just explain to us, what should students be wary of or watchful of? Do they have a reason to be concerned right now? Because I know there are many out there who are currently having plans of travelling to Canada, who've got the admission in place and are going to be there in just about a month or two. I'm wondering if all of this will affect their plans.
Absolutely. Now, you know that there are 8 lakh international students in India, out of which 40% are Indian, and that's nearly 3.2 lakh Indian students. The fees paid by these students are 3 to 5 times higher than what's paid by domestic students. And Indian students alone contribute nearly $4 billion to the Canadian economy. In a way, you can say that the entire private college system in Canada is funded by Indians. And this entire system will collapse if Indian students are prevented from studying in Canada. Now, there are 3 main problems that potential students are going to face. One is visas. Yesterday, our government announced stopping of visas for Canadians. Canada, in a tit-for-tat move, can do pretty much the same. In fact, a Canadian university in Hyderabad yesterday mentioned that students should not even apply for the Jan semester because they're not going to get visas. Only try for August of 24, and that too depends on how the political situation plays out. The application process for student visas was anyway difficult, time-consuming, document-heavy, and it took more than 3 months. Now this process may become even tougher with the Canadian government trying to limit the number of students who want to come to Canada. The second problem that potential students are going to face is admissions. Over the last years, Indian student applications to top universities like McGill, British Columbia, Toronto, etc. skyrocketed, and they became really competitive. Now, with the negative rhetoric and the political issue, the universities are going to be less likely to admit top students. On the other hand, unranked universities offering diploma programs, they would see a fall in the number of Indian students because the Indian government themselves may discourage students from traveling to Canada. And the third and most important is security. Our government issued an advisory warning Indian students of the deteriorating security environment in Canada. And after COVID, parents are anyway concerned about the security of their children. They want destinations where their children can come home more easily. But because the political leadership in Canada is siding with radical elements, parents are already concerned that their children may not be safe in Canada. And
Such
the children
a
might be
circumstance, Karan, for students who are to travel to Canada right now, what would your advice be to them? Do you think they should stall, they should hold off for some time?
I would say wait and watch and see how the situation plays out. See what happened with Russia and Ukraine. Right in the middle of their studies, we had to pull back all our students from Ukraine. They are back in India now. Many of them lost a year. I would tell students, wait for a bit, see how the situation plays out. If you need to defer your admissions to Jan, So be it, safety comes first.
Do you also believe that the government here plays a role in ensuring the protection of these students and ensuring that, they can help them in some way to ensure that, their education isn't hampered?
So again, when we got the students back from Ukraine, and again, I'm referring to that because that was the most recent incident that took place. And we actually have precedent that yes, we got these kids back and the government tried their best to integrate them back into the education system here. I believe that we'll do the same thing if we have to bring back students from Canada.
All right. Karan, request you to stay on with me. I know there are a lot of questions right now doing the rounds about the visa process that's underway right now, whether it impacts those who want to travel to Canada, etc. Let's just break that down for our viewers. Karan, request you to stay on with me. Now, what happens for anyone who has a valid visa? Are you going to face a problem? What happens to your current visa? There is no bar whatsoever on travel. It's important to highlight here that while you have a visa agency which issues visas to Canadians to travel to India, that's in fact been suspended, put on hold. There's no bar on travel right now. Flight operations continue normally. So your current visa still very much valid. Can you travel to India, Canada, I beg your pardon? If you have in fact scheduled to travel, there's no bar whatsoever. You can go ahead and travel without any problems. There's no bar on Indian travelers. If your child, if your loved one is in Canada on an existing visa, again, you'll face no problem whatsoever because valid Canadian visa holders have no problem. The only issue will be if there is a person applying for a new visa or going through a visa process, because that then will be put on hold. If you've planned a holiday to Canada, should you go ahead and reschedule it? Well, that's for you to take a decision on based on the advisory. But if you choose to go ahead with your travel plans, there will be no problem. If you have a valid visa, you can go ahead and travel again. Now, these are in fact some of the details that are very, very clear right now about the visa. And what's at this point, the message is very clear, Karan, that, for Indians right now traveling to Canada or for Indians in Canada who want to come back, if they have a valid visa, there's no problem whatsoever. So I know there are a lot of Indian students right now in Canada who are extremely concerned. What's your message to them? Do they really have reason to worry now?
So once again, you're absolutely right. Students who have a visa, who are looking to travel now, they can. Students who are in Canada, they can stay on the visas, they can come back to India. Nothing has changed there. What has changed is the perception. And students in Canada need to be careful. There are protests. The government has issued an advisory. They've advised students to register on the Madad application and the Madad website. And they've told students to get in touch with the Indian embassy and the Indian consulates around Canada. Canada is not as safe as it used to be. And that's what our government is telling us. It's in the best interest of students who are in Canada to be careful, be vigilant. And if the situation deteriorates, they should consider coming back home.
All right, Karan, thanks very much for getting us all of those details. You've given us great clarity, and I'm sure for viewers out there who have loved ones in Canada or are scheduling travel for education purposes, they've got a lot more clarity on what needs to be done. So thanks very much for joining us here on India
My
Today.
pleasure.
All right, let's continue focusing right now on what's happening between India and Canada. You've got a lot of these radicals, immigrant radicals, essentially who are detached from reality, based in Canada, who constantly also issue these calls for referendum. And it's not something new. It's something we've witnessed in the past as well. Several times, it's never really had an impact on India.
A major rallying point for Khalistani supporters in Canada. In Australia, in the UK, a so-called Punjab referendum, unofficial and binding on no one. A voting exercise aimed at diasporic Sikhs, asking them whether they want the Sikh majority Punjab in India to become a separate Khalistan. The man behind this sham exercise Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, a lawyer of US and Canadian citizenship, whose Sikhs for Justice organization is proscribed by India. Born in Amritsar district, he fled to the US in 2007 after being implicated in a criminal case. The Indian government has designated him a terrorist. Make no mistake, Pannun's so-called Punjab referendum has no base whatsoever in Punjab. The Khalistan movement lost popular support in the early 1990s in the state. Elections take place peacefully from panchayats, the state assembly, to the Lok Sabha, with a huge turnout. Surveys show as high as 95% Sikhs take pride in their Indianness. Separatist voices, if any, appear like a flash in the pan, once in a while, and vanish into thin air. Barring the stubborn fringe, most of the diasporic Sikh community, totaling some 2.5 million people, is not a supporter of Khalistan either. And within the fringe, Pannun's referendum exercise is seen as an ISI-sponsored program.
ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਇੱਕ 2020 ਸੰਸਥਾ ਵਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ISI ਦੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਰੈਫਰੈਂਡਮ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੀ ਆ.
Slain Khalistani separatist Hardeep Nijjar was actively involved in this ISI project in Canada's British Columbia province. The referendum was originally slated in 2020 but was delayed due to the pandemic. Canada became one of the first countries to hold this exercise. It started in the UK in 2021, followed by Italy, and moved to parts of Canada this year. The Indian government has repeatedly conveyed its position on this so-called referendum to nations where it's held, Canada included.
Our position on the efforts by anti-Indian elements to hold a so-called Khalistan referendum is well known. It has been conveyed to the Canadian government, both in New Delhi and in Canada. You also referred, and let me reiterate that, the government of Canada has conveyed that they respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India, and they will not recognize the so-called referendum, which is to take place, I think, in two parts in Canada.
Non-state actors staging a theatre in the name of a referendum, when actual referendums are put forward officially by states, mostly in the West, to vote in support of a proposal or in its opposition. The so-called Khalistan referendum on foreign soil, clearly a farcical project.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are several students who are currently in India, unable to figure out what really needs to be done next. Let's talk about that, because if you look at the number of students currently in Punjab planning their travel to Canada, all of them are confused a lot on what really needs to be done next now. Do they go ahead with their travel? Do they not? Do they wait to see what happens? It's led to also a lot of political talk on this particular issue, as Akali Dal representatives have also met with the government to express these concerns, to ensure that the diplomatic tensions don't really hit the students right now who are unsure of what really their future plans to study in Canada will really work out or not.
The diplomatic tensions between India and Canada have added to the woes of Indian students who spend lakhs of rupees to fulfill their foreign dreams. We are in Roopnagar in Punjab, where Passport Seva Kendra has been set up by the Government of India so that people can get their passport services at their doorstep. There are people who are waiting for their turn to get their passports done so that they can fulfill their foreign dreams. Most of these people are heading to Canada on study visas, work permits, besides doing the businesses. Let us go across to some of these passport holders or applicants to know whether they are aware about the tensions between India and Canada. Are you aware about the diplomatic tensions between India and Canada?
Actually, I heard today only that after 21 September, maybe Canada is going to decline the visa ratio for Indian students, but I don't have that much knowledge about that.
जिस तरह कनाडा और भारत के बीच में थोड़ी सी टेंशन बढ़ रही है, उसको लेकर कोई फिक्र है आपको?
फिक्र तो ये हर एक चीज का होता है, घर में टेंशन होगी, बाहर टेंशन होगी, इसकी चलो ये जो टेंशन है तो गवर्नमेंटों के ऊपर है, छोड़ दे जाएंगी, कोई बात नहीं। अब हाँ जी, अब ऐसा थोड़ी है कि हम डिप्रेस होके बैठ जाएं या सारे लोगों को बोल के भी ऐसे ऐसे हो रहा है, वो तो मोदी जी बैठे, बड़े बड़े बंदे बैठे हैं। हाँ जी।
So the families and students are of the hope that both the countries will settle the dispute amicably, but there are prayers, they are praying to the God that things settle down so that the money they have invested is worth and they get student and work permits. The camera person Aman Gupta, this is Manjeet Sehgal in Rupnagar for India Today.
ਚਲੋ ਕੋਈ ਜੈਸੇ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਰ ਪਾਸਪੋਰਟ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਦੇ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਬਾਹਰ ਦੇ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਹਨਾ। ਹਰ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਪੈਸਾ ਕਮਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਉੱਥੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ ਹਨਾ, ਹਰ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਉਸੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਤਾਂ ਹਰ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਸੋਚ ਹੀ ਰਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਇਹ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਬਣਿਆ ਰਹੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸੀਗਾ।
Now, the Akali Dal has also taken up this issue with the government. Rahul Kanwal spoke with Bikram Singh Majitia of the Shiromani Akali Dal on the concerns that the party has about Sikhs who are planning travel to Canada.
You know, everyone in Punjab, or most people in Punjab, have some form of family and friends in Canada. Those very concerned at this moment. What's your message to them? Because while their coming and going isn't impacted, we did hear from the Canadian government that they are evaluating reciprocal measures quite naturally on the back of India's suspension of visas. What are you wanting to tell all those who are watching at this moment and are deeply concerned about what comes next?
You know, Rahul, when all this chatter is happening and when the Canadian government comes out with an advisory that whoever's travelling to India needs to be safe, and when the Indian government comes out with a similar advisory, you know, people are going to get worried because these are not normal statements. But I personally, I feel both we as Indians and as Canadians out there, the large majority believes in peace, love, and they realize that some statements could turn out to be very hollow in times to come. So it's sad that these statements are being made. The truth needs to come out so that nobody can get away by blaming people like this. We ourselves are a very large and a very responsible democracy, and nobody likes to see such accusations even flying towards our country. Because end of the day, when you're a proud Indian, you need to be proud of all the facts of India. Whether it's respecting any caste, creed, religion, or whether it's your economic policies, whether it's your regional policies, it's all policies in total. So I think this statement by the Prime Minister will have to be backed up by evidence, otherwise he's going to look very stupid in the eyes on the world stage otherwise.
यह जिम्मेवारी का अवसर ही नहीं आया होगा। यानी एक प्रकार से आपको कार्यक्रम की कल्पना भी करनी थी, समस्याओं के विषय में भी इमेजिन करना था कि क्या हो सकता है, क्या नहीं हो सकता है, ऐसा होगा तो ऐसा करेंगे, ऐसा होगा तो ऐसा करेंगे। बहुत कुछ आपको अपने तरीके से इवॉल्व करना पड़ा होगा। और इसलिए मेरा आप सबसे एक विशेष आग्रह है। आप कहेंगे कि इतना काम करवा दिया कि अभी भी छोड़ेंगे नहीं क्या? मेरा आग्रह ऐसा है कि जब से इस काम से आप जुड़े होंगे, कोई 3 साल से जुड़ा होगा, कोई 4 साल से जुड़ा होगा, कोई 4 महीने से जुड़ा होगा, पहले दिन से जब आपसे बात हुई तब से लेकर के जो भी हुआ हो, अगर आपको इसको रिकॉर्ड कर दें, लिख दें सारा, और सेंट्रली जो व्यवस्था करते हैं कोई एक वेबसाइट तैयार करें, सब अपनी अपनी भाषा में लिखें, जिसको जो भी सुविधा हो, कि उन्होंने किस प्रकार से इस काम को किया, कैसे देखा, क्या कमियां नजर आई, कोई समस्या आई तो कैसे रास्ता खोला। अगर ये आपका अनुभव रिकॉर्ड हो जाएगा तो वो एक भविष्य के कार्यों के लिए उसमें से एक अच्छी गाइडलाइंस तैयार हो सकती है और वो एक इंस्टीट्यूशन का काम कर सकती है, जो चीजों को आगे करने के लिए, जो इसके भी जिम्मे जब भी काम आएगा वो उसका उपयोग करेगा। और इसलिए आप जितनी बारीकी से एक एक चीज को लिख करके, भले 100 पेज हो जाए, और आप कल तो उसके लिए कपबोर्ड की जरूरत नहीं है, क्लाउड पर रख दिया तो फिर तो वहां बहुत जगह है, लेकिन इन चीजों का बहुत उपयोग है। तो मैं चाहूंगा कि कोई व्यवस्था बने और आप लोग इसका फायदा उठाएं।
Prime Minister there at the event of a gala dinner that's been hosted for all of those who are behind the G20 team. We will get you more live inputs as they come in. That's the Prime Minister interacting with all of the security personnel, all of the teams who were on ground really at Bharat Mandapam, who made the G20 success really possible, worked hard day and night for the last many months to pull off the G20 event in the national capital. About 300 of them chosen to be a part of this event with the Prime Minister. He's also going to be having a personal interaction with them. There will also be a dinner hosted by the Prime Minister for all of these personnel. We saw a gala celebration break out early this morning at the BJP headquarters as women of the BJP came together to celebrate the Women's Reservation Bill being passed in both houses of the Parliament. Prime Minister Modi was there. Let's get you some of the highlights.
By a majority of the total membership of the House and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present and voting, the bill is passed with a thumping majority.
After a 27-year wait, the Women's Reservation Bill is passed by both houses of Parliament. The BJP, which piloted the bill, celebrated the historic occasion at its headquarters in Delhi on Friday.
जोरदार तालियों के साथ वंदन करें, स्वागत करें। धन्यवाद, धन्यवाद।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a rousing welcome by Women Party workers and top BJP leaders, including Party President JP Nadda and Union Ministers Nirmala Sitharaman, Smriti Irani. The PM bowed his head to Nari Shakti and touched their feet.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का बारंबार धन्यवाद।
बीजेपी महिलाओं की भागीदारी से के लिए 3 दशक से प्रयास कर रही थी। यह हमारा कमिटमेंट था और आज हमने उसे पूरा कर दिया है।
The Prime Minister slammed the opposition for failing to get the law cleared earlier.
इससे पहले जब भी ये बिल संसद में आए, लीपापोती हुई, सिर्फ नाम दर्ज कराएगी, निष्ठापूर्वक कभी प्रयास नहीं हुआ।
BJP ministers and women MPs hailed the Prime Minister for the passage of the bill.
मोदी जी को विशेष आभार व्यक्त करती हूं। उन्होंने वादा किया था हमसे कि नया संसद का भवन इतिहास का साक्षी बनेगा। 72 घंटे में उन्होंने वर्षों के संघर्ष को समाधान तक पहुंचाते हुए महिला आरक्षण बिल पास किया।
महिला का ज्यादा आबादी है, ये आबादी को न्याय मिलना ऐसा बहुत साल का इच्छा था, आशा था, बट ये आशा को दिल में रख के, मन में रख के, दिमाग में रख के हमारा मोदी जी ने पूरा किया है, इसलिए वो खुशी हम मना रही है।
The Congress, which backed the law, is persisting with its demand to implement the women quota in the 2024 elections.
this bill will be implemented a decade from now. It is not going to be implemented today, and every woman in India should understand this. It is not going to be implemented today, it's going to be implemented if it is implemented 10 years from now. So this is a diversionary tactic. It's a way of making everyone's attention move away.
With the passage of the Women Reservation Bill, 33% seats of Lok Sabha, state legislative assemblies and the Delhi Assembly are reserved for women. The reservation will come into effect only after delimitation is undertaken in 2026. Bureau Report, India Today.
And today, or perhaps tomorrow, we're hoping for some news from ISRO on Chandrayaan 3, on Vikram and Pragyan, and whether they've successfully woken up on the surface of the moon at the Shiv Shakti point. Now, ISRO did confirm that they're going to attempt to, in fact, wake up Vikram and Pragyan today, but so far we have not received any update. If ISRO is able to revive them, because the sun is essentially rising on the moon again right now, information that's derived from experiments that could once again be conducted by the Chandrayaan 3 payloads would be essentially a bonus, because all along while ISRO was developing Chandrayaan, they did say that for 14 days is the plan, that for 14 days you would have in fact rover Pragyan doing the rounds on the surface of the moon.
But if ISRO's design would have been successful, then tomorrow when the daytime of lunar daytime starts, then the whole payloads in the lander and the rover may start working. Even if the rover it doesn't work, even the lander it works, it will be really miracle. And if it happens, then we will be in a league.
Hamara second phase of Chandrayaan 3 is about to take off in the next few hours, and the moment of anxiety now is that we are waiting for the wake-up call to get activated and Vikram and Pragyan to respond to that alarm. Once they do, then the communication from the Earth will begin, and we will be the first in the world to have accomplished this.
And we'll, of course, get you all those updates that come in from ISRO. That's all we have time for in this edition of 6 p.m. Prime. Thanks very much for tuning in. Same time, I'll be joining you on Monday with the latest news. For the moment, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week.